Good morning. Welcome to EduSet Network. Friend, as you know, today we are going to discuss one of the new and emerging area in the area of journalism and mass communication, and that is web journalism. To understand the web journalism, we need to know the nature of web, how does it work, and you all are aware that in the last decade, the people are devoting more time on the web. So how the web journalism has come to over the years and how it has change the entire scenario of the journalism, and people who are in the journalism, they need what kind of different skills for the web journalism. We'll try to understand all these issues, and of course the issues, problem, prospects related to the web journalism we'll try to understand. And for discussion on this very topic, we have in the studio eminent person, Dr. S.R. Chari. He is the professor and head of the TV and radio journalism in Indian Institute of Mass Communication, of the premier institution of the country. And you all know he has long experience of teaching. As before joining in academic, he was also a reporter. He has covered the area, covered the news story from the different countries, and also a reputed producer in Doordarshan and All India Radio. So certainly his knowledge and experience will help us to understand this new area of journalism, that is web journalism, and will give insight and also guide how to take up the web journalism, and what are the essential skills, or what are the essential criteria for the web journalism. With this, so we request Professor Chari to start the today lecture. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Amrendra. In fact, it is very interesting. We are talking about web, which is particularly, it's very interesting for India, because where we have about more than 65% of the people are youth, and who are very savvy, technology savvy, and they're very much familiar with the internet and computers. So, and this is the area which is now growing at a very, very fast rate, and in fact, it captures the imagination of all the people. The only problem is that whether we have the access of internet and the computers to the whole country or not, in fact, which is going to happen much sooner than what we think. So the prospects for this web for the entire country is increasing very rapidly. In fact, it has already happened all over the world. Globally, if you look at it, that the whole shrinking of the global world is because of the internet, the web, and the access, the digital divide is much less in the Western countries, although it is still there. But then we have, so let us first try and take a look at this whole, before we talk about web journalism, what is this nature of this web itself, which is which people are saying is the largest ungoverned space on earth, which would mean that there's so much of information and there are no regulation there, virtually no regulation. Everybody and anybody can become a journalist and post anything on this net. So how and why, and so many people putting information, there is a humongous amount of information, a large amount of information which is generated every day on the net, and people are not necessarily journalists, not necessarily people who are under a certain regulated atmosphere or trained and skilled people, but there are blogs, microblogs, and all kind of places where the people are exchanging information. Social media, which is also there, the Facebook, the Twitter, all these are there where people are exchanging information, which is at a very, very rapid rate and at a very interesting manner. So let us look at this huge amount of information. Before we say, somebody has pointed out that if you actually calculate the amount of information generated in about just about a day or two on the net today, 2 days of information in the net today would be more than entire amount of information which was generated before the dawn of, after the dawn of the culture, where the information exchange happened. From that time to 2003, the total amount of information which is generated, we generate in just about 2 days today on the net. So you can imagine the amount of information which is going to be there. So this has also brought about a revolutionary change in communication, how people communicate with each other. It's and how people inform each other. So we look at it like when we are earlier we were only dependent upon newspapers or radio broadcasting and television broadcasting for information needs and education needs or entertainment needs. Now you'll find that the internet is doing all this purpose with a much more accessibility, and people are saying there are unparalleled benefits. Everybody knows, particularly the young people know how this information on the web is so useful, on the social media and internet, the mails, the Gmails, all this kind of information exchange is becoming, and the Google Hangouts or whatever. So you name it and it is all there on the internet. And you all have this kind of exposure. Some people have more exposure, some people have less exposure, but everybody is getting exposed to this internet. So that is why it is becoming very, very important. So the unparalleled benefits of this net and social media are tremendous and unparalleled in history. So we have a huge amount of benefits, but at the same time, we also have, there is a problem about freedom of expression and privacy. If you are talking about how encroachment takes place, I mean, there is a lot of the other side of the web also, where people are finding it that a lot of posts, information, etc., could be very, very dangerously posted. A lot of journalism which happens there on the internet could be irresponsible. It could get into a lot of not only simple things like libel and defaming people, are encroaching upon people's privacy, personal habits and their lives. The danger is there, and then we have seen that in recent times in our own country happening, and it could be far, I mean, with the dangerous consequences also. When we recently saw how the whole lot of people from the northeast were scared by the posts which were done from whatever sources. They had tried to create a panic in the society, and there was a flight of people from here to there. This was all done by people who were trying to terrorize the other people. This is the dark side of the internet. The dark side of the internet, where terrorism is also there on that. People are being using it. So there is need to how to control this, how to internationally the states can come to it. It still escapes the imagination of many people how you could actually regulate this internet. So having said this, now this is broadly the overview of the internet, which has got a tremendous advantages, and it is being used for a lot of positive purposes, but at the same time it is also has a darker side which is also very scary. It has got as we say that all new technologies have both sides of the advantages side and also the disadvantage side. Now having said that, now let us take a look at the Indian media scenario. What is happening in India? You will see in India there is a growth of various media. You can see that the statistics say the print media in the next 5 years, the print is expected to grow at a rate of 9.3%, whereas the radio is expected to grow faster, much faster, with about 15.6% growth. And the television is, of course, it is a very popular medium and is going at 17.9%. That is the growth rate of projected growth rate of all these media. But look at internet. It is almost growing at a rate of 30%. So today we have about 124 million people having internet, and it is likely to increase to 400 million people using the net by the year 2017. So that is a huge growth of this web media, internet access. And imagine we are a little more than 1 billion people, and mobile is also becoming very, very popular, and in fact almost the billion mark was touched by use of mobiles, out of which we also find that about 40 million mobiles are which are what do you call the the modern mobiles, which you have got Androids and smartphones. The smartphones are about 40 million today, and they keep on growing. And if these smartphones also have access all to the internet, so sooner or later, this mobile internet is also going to become very, very popular. So once that happens, that all access to information, and in fact that the bandwidth also is growing, it's increasing. If the moment we are talking about not only 3G, we are also talking about 4G bandwidth. And if all this bandwidth happens and then mobile internets happen in the next 1, 2, 3 years, then of course you will have a revolutionary change in the access of information on the internet. Now, this revolutionary access to internet will also provide a lot of information to people on the net, where already we are talking about the different platforms like print, radio, TV and internet. They all will converge, and people are using whatever information they are giving on the radio or the newspapers, that will also be put on the internet. So you already have websites, a lot of websites, which are every channel or every radio, television channel or a newspaper has its own website, and all the information goes on the web. And these websites, at the moment, they have a much greater advantage than the traditional way of broadcasting. Number one, they are very, very economical. Number two, you will find they are much faster to update, and then also you will find that these websites have a tremendous potential to give you information from different type of sources, and any amount of extended information can be provided on the website on the page, and the page can have links and hyperlinks, and it can go on and on, give you whatever information. And finally, that websites or the internet journalism or the web journalism can take you to a new era of customized information to each individual. The billions of people are there, but each person can access, can have his own, design his own newspaper, can design his own television channel. By which I mean, he or she can first see the news, the lead news, whatever he or she wants. If you want sports, you can just go and pick up that information, go on in depth into that, and keep on designing your own information needs on that place. So more of that we can discuss when we are looking at ahead. But at the same time, now let us look at globally. We just saw India, how it is there. Globally, this is a very big map, but you can see that the orange areas which are you're seeing there, the dark areas, and particularly in the European and American continent, and you see there is a graph in the second one which shows all the circulation of newspapers is going in the minus. I mean, the circulation of newspapers have declined in USA by minus 15.9%, in England and in the United States minus 13%, Germany minus 8.3%. They're all below the line. You will see those boxes, orange boxes. Everything, all newspapers are going lesser and lesser in circulation. Only in India and some of the South Africa and developing countries, we still have newspapers. In India, of course, the newspapers are growing in a big way, because we are now in a situation where the newspapers have a different kind of a model. That's a different theory altogether, why the newspapers circulation has increased and continues to increase. But the trends, international trends show that newspapers sooner or later they will all move on to the internet. You can see in the very popular paper like Wall Street Journal or Dow Jones. Dow Jones has also winded up. All these big papers have actually moved on to the internet, and then the websites, online journalism, and there is less of print media, which is newspaper print is costing a lot of money, and sooner or later it will also, in India, you will find that the newspaper journalism, most of these people, this internet will be the main player, the bigger platform. As we have already seen, the growth of internet is much faster, at about 30%, I said. So coming years, you will find the web is going to grow, where the presence of all newspapers, all radio channels, all television channels, and the other sources of information will all be there on the internet. In fact, today there is a new ecosystem of news is developing. If you're talking about journalism, there is a total new ecosystem. There's no environment of news is developing. you'll see, you have seen that whether in the Japanese tsunami or even more recently our own coverages of Fallen and other places. Particularly, I would like to draw your attention to the international coverages. If you remember the coverages which is done, like tsunami in Japan and other places, you'll find most of the videos which were shown were shaky cameras or mobile phones, which showed a lot of cars floating in water and shaky pictures, and there are also pictures of ships stranded. Many times you'll find these amateur people who take not a very professional cameras, etc., but they feed the information. That kind of information in fact has greater credibility today. If in fact it has got greater credibility than professional television crews which are broadcasting on television channels, sometimes people suspect the kind of visuals which are shown on the television, whether they are really the correct visuals. Sometimes they are accused or alleged to have been showing wrong footage or some old archival footage, passing it off as current footage. So for the TRPs or getting popularity, all kind of sensational pictures are coming up. But people will trust any citizen journalist or any person, private person, who is taking pictures and sending them onto the net. So that's why what we are saying is that these nets can be posted on the internet. This can be posted on the YouTube. This can be posted all over. So all this information, the videos also, television, a lot of people are finding that YouTube and other places where the people are posting these videos, they are getting very popular, and they have got greater credibility sometimes than the credibility of professional channels. So video sharing websites are also there. You will find a lot of websites which share videos, and in fact we can go on talk about all this kind of information which flew in from very big events which took place in the collapse of CIS, or more recently in the Tahrir Square, in the Egyptian crisis, all these places you find all these visuals which had come up through video sharing websites. And then there are places like Twitter. Everybody knows how Twitter has now quickly broken, so many important news has been broken on the Twitter. Then you also have various people who are very active on the web, something called an web activity. People like WikiLeaks, people like Snowden, all these people have also posted a lot of information on the internet, which is also giving you a lot of, if you say, a lot of newspapers have actually picked up information and printed it or broadcast it from these places, which are called, that's why we have. So the sources of journalism, or even the writing journalism itself, is happening mostly on the internet, or internet is helping out, substituting information needs of the people through on the net. But we have still not come to the journalism. We are only talking about how information exchange is taking place on the web. Then the famous Al Jazeera channel also has given a lot of information. Having said all this, now look at this kind of journalism, and then there are blogs which are being posted. A lot of people write blogs, a lot of people provide information and also analysis and also views. So information and the form of actually what is happening, maybe shot by cameras and citizen journalism type of journalism, or we are also talking about analysis, people giving their opinions, views, which comes on blogs and microblogs. So all this kind of a journalism is popularly called crowdsourced journalism. That is the journalism which is by crowds who are not really journalists, but then they are providing information, and the information is not very small information. Sometimes it gets shaken up people. For example, if you look at the social media news, this Abbottabad which happened, where the US has Osama bin Laden was captured, and then it was become a very huge international news that came on the social media, and it was first leaked out by a Twitter and from the Pakistan, where this Abbottabad incident had happened. Then even the Mumbai attacks went on Twitter, and then if you look at the Radia tapes and the 2G expose, all this was on the Twitter and the Facebook was much before than anybody could have actually printed it out on the traditional medium. They were already doing rounds on the Facebook, on the social media sites, and then recently more about the cricket exposed, the IPL and all that. They all have come through. So these are major events. I'm not talking about small events. Major journalism events are happening on the internet, and we have to take note of this new medium which is coming up in a very big way. So having now, we also talked about media activism. There are a lot of people who are very, very active on the media. These people, and they're not in a small way. As we said, WikiLeaks, then there were open leaks. Then more recently, we even a lot of European countries have accused United States of America and Britain of taking a lot of information, putting a lot of spying activity on the net. In fact, even yesterday's newspapers have talked about, or even today's newspapers are talking about how Germany and the Chancellor Merkel and other people have allegedly accused of these agencies of national security of various countries of US and England having done this spying, which was of course there was a lot of controversy, debate is going on how the internet is being snooped upon by people who have the access, and how they are hacking various information, both for not only for political reasons but also for trade reasons. And it was a very dangerous trend, that how the internet can be hacked and the information can be taken away from that place. But there are a lot of whistleblowers, like we saw the WikiLeaks, and then there were whistleblowers like Snowden, and all these people have brought about to the fore how this internet journalism can have its own very, very big boundary. So this is a broad overview of the web, its nature, and how various people are sourcing a lot of information, pumping a lot of information, which is extraordinarily useful for some people, and it could also be dangerous for other people, and it could be hurting many economies and countries. And because there is no restriction, because it's the largest space on the earth which is not governed by anybody. And having said that, this now look at the young people. We are looking at the youth, and also not only the youth, but a lot of people who are savvy of the media. What is happening? All this information, while they are, we are not looking at people today as only consumers of information only from the newspaper, or only from the radio, or only from the television, or only from the internet. You see, the consumption of information is now coming from many, many sources. The human mind is absorbing information from a large many more sources, and particularly the young mind, the people, the youthful people, they are absorbing information from a far many more social media units, which, as we have said, they could be absorbing a lot of information. The blog, which is again a very crowdsourced kind of a journalism which happens, a lot of bloggers write a lot of blogs, or it could be from the Twitter, or it could be from Orkut, it could be from the Dig, LinkedIn, Facebook, Flickr. So the human social brain is occupying all kind of information which is coming from the social media. And this is a very, very new trend which happens, like if the young people are getting all this information from different sources, then the problem comes in. Now we are talking about the journalism on the web. Do you think this web or journalism on the web, or the newcomers who are doing this journalism, and is this really journalism? Are we talking about bloggers? Are they journalists? The tweeters, just as we have just seen, the tweets of Abbottabad, or a lot of tweets which have come from even in the Fallon or recent coverages of Uttarakhand, all these places, lots of information has flown in through the tweets, through the blogs. Is this journalism? But these people, if they are feeding a lot of information on the sites, what kind of an ethics are they following? Are they restricted because it's an ungoverned space? Do you have problems about ethics? And then the credibility. what kind of a credibility have? Sometimes the credibility is very high because we know that the visuals are there, like as I told you about Japanese tsunami or the recent famine, or wherever there is a lot of credibility of coming on the internet. And then of Tahrir Square, the Egyptian crisis, you find that Ghonim has posted so much of visuals, interviews, statements, and uprising in the West Middle East. So all this information has a lot of credibility there. People believe in that. So, but then there is also credibility crisis because they are all not trained journalists. So there is, in fact, in the United States, people are asking for press credentials because they say that they are doing a lot of journalistic job. A lot of news stories have broken on that. So internet writers on China, although China is a closed medium with a different, it doesn't use any of the internet service providers or something, or the servers, but its own servers. Recently the news says that it's a huge amount of, humongous amount of information flow even within the China, which is unable to restrict it. So we have a lot of amount of information coming there. A lot of people feeding in, they are not trained, they are not following any ethical considerations, or they don't have the legal, the training of a journalist. But then now what do we call? What is journalism on the web? Is the web journalism? Who would be a web journalism? Is citizen journalism a web journalism? Is it a fine journalism? Because many television channels are also using citizen journalism and citizen journalism, and a lot of people are using this kind of journalism. They say, and then they give credibility to this. There is low barriers of entry. Anybody can write on these blogs, and probably even in newspaper, web, they have created their own sites from where they can keep on writing on this information. Then linkages with organizations and brands. Many of these people who are writing on the blogs and all that, they could be linked to various private organizations with a certain objective, and they could be linked with brands, certain organizations which promote certain things. So the credibility is a problem there. There is a great disruption of information there. There's principles of journalism may not be followed. Many times, like the foxification of news, what we call, there can be a lot of views given freely, which is not really journalism. When we are looking at journalism, we are supposed to put facts first and analyze them in that perspective, and not give opinions. Opinions are restricted to a different place. In newspapers, in the editorials, and in channels and other places, television, you have information separately, and opinion from the experts and other place people comes out as a standby, and we announce that this is the opinion of various people and not the channel's own opinion. So we have opinion separated, and people are made to know where there is opinion and where there is information, where there is analysis. All this is very important. So there is a transparency and objectivity in the case of broadcast traditional journalism, but there is also on the blogs and other places, it is not organized, and it does not have that kind of principles, practices, and rules laid out. So people can get confused, and they may not be really, sometimes they believe them, sometimes they have higher credibility, sometimes they may not have the credibility, and then they are openly offered. Sometimes if you say we are openly offering opinion, like the Fox News, even that would be better, because there are television channels where they say we are openly offering opinion. So at least people know that this is not analysis or facts, but it is openly, they are saying that it is opinion. So whether you like to take it or you like to have your own interpretation, this is up to you. So the web journalism, the journalism coming on the web, has all these shades and characteristics which are figuring out. Now conceptually, this is how the whole web is functioning today, about organizing a lot of information which is coming into the posted on the webs on various sources, which are not those tents which are pitched by newspapers and television channels and radio, not the established newspapers, but by all the other sources which are also contributing to the information which, as I have told you, a lot of it is absorbed by young people, and or other people also who are on the net, or at least they are people who are technologically have the access to the technology which is growing faster. So these people will also have exposed to all this kind of information. So this is how the situation, the information scenario is. Now, having said all this, in this kind of a scenario, we have also the traditional, the newspapers, the radio, the television channels, all of them are also present on the internet. So many young people, many people who are actually quickly surfing the information on the web, they also having all this access to this information. In fact, the fastest information comes from this Facebook and Twitter and all the other social media. Having done that, but many of them will go back and try and check with the traditional newspapers and websites of television channels for a further confirmation of the events that are taking place. So that is where the online journalism or the web journalism, which is more organized and is available, and that is also practiced. So many of us, if we are looking for a career and a little more professional career on any of these websites, online journalism, we can also require and take a look at what kind of skills are required, what kind of an aptitudes are required for becoming an online journalism, and how is it different from the journalism which is practiced by the newspapers and the hard copy printed or broadcasting television channels. How is it different? So it's different basically, as we have already discussed, the different because it is available online, it's much faster, you can get information at a very quick pace, and then you also, any web journalist has to be providing information much fast, and not only he has to have all the knowledge of these skills which you're seeing on the online. You find that there is a whole range of media skills which are required. You should be able to understand the hypertext language, markup language, how to post things on the internet, how to use audio clips on the internet, whether the audio clips have to be slightly different because you don't have to, they don't have the time and energy to go on onto large audio clips. The video clips also sometimes they are streamed, there's a bandwidth problem. So how sharply edited those video clips are, that has to be seen. Then even if the still images, the space is very important, how you have a layout and design, like this newspaper, this channel on the, we have seen that on the site, how quickly, I mean, you can have a quick glance at it, how the website takes the pictures. Then also there is a possibility, all kind of things are possible on the web, because you can have animation also is possible. If somebody who wants to see it a little more clearly, the pictures, then you can have an animation on that. Then flash interactivity is possible, in the sense, flash interactivity in the sense that you can have a lot of animation graphics which can be uploaded and taken in through flash, which would provide us a lot of access to animation graphics, which are normally otherwise it would take a lot of space, but then through flash we can bring them onto the online newspaper. Then there are a lot of blogs from which you can also absorb information, micro-blogging sites which are social media, from which you can take it and put it on the all this quick information which keeps fed on the microblogs and social media networks. They can be taken and used on online journalism after they are verified, doubly checked, and then they are also like put through the grind of the regular journalism practices, principles, verification, balance, objectivity. All these, once they are put through the regular mill, then they can be filtered and brought onto the online news. So that would give you a lot of credibility there, and it will be like all those traditional television channels, radio channels or newspapers which are present on the internet. They use all these what do you call skills of which we have just seen, the whole range of media skills, and those skills are then put onto the websites on their own website pages. And then of course they also have a faster updating of these skills. I mean, news One other thing about this place is that then you can fast update this, and then the journalism actually, when you are writing for that web writing would require a different skills also. Some of the tips which are there for writing for on the web would mean that you will have to know your audience. Who are your audience? Are these the same audience which is watching television news, or this is the same audience? If it's a television channel on the web, are you catering to the same viewers or audience, or it's a different audience? That you have to find out. Obviously, a television news channel is watched by a large number, it's by all kind of people, by the young, old, women, everybody watches the television channel. Women, men, young, old, the categories are all there. But if you look at the online newspaper or online television channel, but which is like any channel on live channel which is coming on the net, you will not find many of the older generation people watching online news. They would be much rather comfortable sitting on a couch, switching channel to channel, rather than getting on to the computer and trying to see the. So the audience, if they are younger, if you have a lot of people who are on the workplace, on their computers, laptops, they are looking at the information, they're doing their work, and in between breaks, they're trying to figure out what kind of information is available on the internet. So for that kind of a people, you would require a different kind of page, a web page or a channel space, which will take it into their consideration, whether probably you require a little bit of lifestyles information there, because they're younger people, and then probably the stories which are designed in the television channel with a heavily hardcore political and economic news may not be the ones which will find space on the web page. They could be a little more, I'm not saying any dumbing down, but it says young people have a different kind of needs also. So the audience understanding is very, very important. Then the second thing which we got to do about, think first and think different, because the people, the kind of graphics with the younger fellows, people who are particularly the technology savvy people who are watching the news or on the television channel on the net or reading the newspaper on the net, they would expect a lot more illustrations, like because they are familiar with grabs like clickable graphics, texts, links, audio, video, and all kind of information. They would be expecting, as we said, the flash interactivity, like they would be expecting many more graphics, illustrations, and then a quick links and hyperlinks also. They would not, and they would also expect a lot of metadata to be available, which can be quickly referred to, and then the threads which are there of the timelines. All this becomes very, very important. You can even use blurbs and places on the internet when we are illustrating news. That will become more attractive for your audience. So you have to think first and think differently. Then we also require to tailor your news gathering, how you gather your news, whether you use it as different kind of people. Your sources cannot be always the same. Even if the sources are the same, then you will have to interview people in a different manner, because you require a different kind of quick and short brief bites, rather than having a longer bites which will not be useful. If there is a pictures which will have to be very narrowly edited and then made because of the streaming video or available and the bandwidth available. So apart from all that, let us please believe that, look at this very carefully, that since you are looking at the internet, which is the fast medium and quick updates are there, does not mean that you need to skip the background information or explanations or analysis. These things you cannot do away with, because you must expect that people who are on the net trying to look at this news and information, they are also looking at it, they want a little background. It's not that they are always familiar with all kind of information which is coming on the net. It's not possible. They are they have to be provided with the background information sometimes. They have to be explained what they are seeing there, whether it's an economic story, whether it is an RBI economic policy, or it's a price situation which is happening, or it's even the vegetable prices or the onion prices. What is the background? You will always have to explain to them, without which the people, audience who are wanting a quick look at the news does not mean that they don't want the background information. Perhaps you don't provide the entire information on the same page. You can provide it through a hyperlink. So don't be afraid of using the links. Then use a lot of links, and also don't pile on a lot of information on the same page, because then it will become very difficult. You have to keep the page, all that information short and sweet, and then they have to keep the information a brief. And if you have information, break that information, use it as different stories, and then we can be doing a much better job than. Then of course, eliminate the guesswork, which is obvious, have the links, then take risks, but remember the basics, that the journalism is all to do with all the 5 W's and H. All that information is required, and you need to provide the facts first, and then objectivity has to be maintained, and the balance have to be there for both the sides of the whatever information is coming. It has to be balanced information, otherwise you would lose credibility. If one side of information, then you would be linked to unsolicited blogs which keep on giving you unsolicited information, and they are not really reliable and sometimes not credible. So people may absorb it, but if you are on the online professional media, then you will have to be following all basic ethics of journalism, all basic principles of journalism, all the rules and regulations, and also the laws which apply to all journalists also apply to the web journalists also. So this is a very important thing which we need to have. Then let us finally look at the emerging trends on the net. The emerging trends would also include that we would like to see television as a background information. So we would be looking at television. Television becomes in the background because you will find a lot of information coming on the television, which is also through a lot of scrolls, and a lot of television itself has become a very value-added surface. Then there is people would like to go to the television for only as a background information, but more depend upon Facebook threads. We would also like to Facebook has a lot of threads information there. Twitter hashtags are there which tell you the trends. Now recently you look at the Twitter, it's also, earlier people used to think that it is not a very big business model, but now today we are looking at that Twitter has itself become a very big business model, because whatever the top 10 sites in the the hashtags always determine which are the information which is there, linked information flowing from the Twitter. Although it's a small little 140 words which are coming there, but to get into the top 10 news on the Twitter, people are paying money, and it is becoming more and more of a revenue model. So all these news sites are also getting to be revenue models. And above all, you will find that these new online sites are more interactive. There is also a business model there. People can connect with the programs much faster. If you like a certain news or you don't like certain news, you can immediately interact sitting on the computer. It's not like broadcast where you will have to say, please call me on this number and interact. Or on the radio, you have given a telephone number and people have to come back and interact. Here the connectivity of the audience and the viewers on the internet is much greater. So there is a more democratization of this web journalism. So, and the response of the people who are working on the web journalism has to be that they are they have a little more open approach. They keep on receiving public information, and then they will like to keep on having changing it or updating it or providing different viewpoints. This connectivity has to be looked at very carefully. So that's another aptitude of people who are working on the internet or the web journalism. They have to have this kind of thinking on their feet and quickly updating all kind of information as soon as possible. Finally, I would also say the emerging trends which are already there. You will find in India the 4G license is already coming up. Then the government has already given some 4G licenses. As I told you, as we have discussed, that we have also seen the mobiles and the smartphones numbers are increasing, and as with the scale of economy, the cost will come down, expected to come down, and these notepads and these mobile phones all will be able to have access to the internet at a much cheaper rate to the people. So it spreads not only into the urban areas, but also into the rural areas, as projected internationally. By in the next 5 years, you will have 5 billion people all over the world, who are supposed to be accessible on the net, and they also, among this 5 billion people, India is also expected to have at least 400 million people with access to internet and mobile phones. So this is a huge, humongous amount of people who are accessible to this new and developing web journalism, and that's therefore a lot of potential is there for people who are looking at careers in this web journalism. So understanding this whole area scenario, and then finally trying to get to know the skills which are required, as we just outlined, is very, very important. And I'm sure this is all very interesting for the young people who are already very, very computer savvy. They're familiar with the new technologies, and they're familiar with the web, and they're familiar with the internet, and they're familiar with the social media. So these people will be able to use these new iPads, mobiles only newspapers. They're already there. You have some mobile only newspapers. Then there is the internet content and aggregation is there. Cultural shift with excessive videos and ethical questions. All this is coming up for the modern new trends, and which are not very far going to happen in India also. So much for the journalism on the web journalism. We have discussed the skills also, and the potential is there. And just moving on, we are going ahead with this web journalism in a big way. And all, as you find, all the newspapers, all the media is now, it has its presence, and it also has presence on the many of the people who are not associated with the traditional media also have presence on the net, and it would be a kind of journalism which is coming up both on one side, a huge space which is not governed, which is not responsible, which is probably not regulated. That's one. And then you have other area, the entire media presence on the website, which has got which follows a certain rules, regulations. And traditional and professional journalism, people can opt for their careers in this, and there is also scope for people on the other areas of blogs and microblogs, where there is also a lot of revenue models associated with that, and people are doing very well by doing, and a lot of credibility also is associated with many of those people also.
So how do you see the gatekeeping principle of journalism that being violated or being used in the new form of journalism, that is web journalism? You see a spurt of web in the last few years, what we have witnessed.
Right. So you see those traditional established media which is present on the web, which is using the modern day skills of web journalism and quick updates and providing information through the regular, they are using a different platform, like the normal newspapers and normal radio channels, normal television channels. They are using the internet platform, and they follow the rules and regulations. There is no problem associated with them, but the gatekeeping function for the people, non-traditional players, that is the bloggers and microbloggers and social media people, that is a big problem which there has not been much solution, although some attempts were made, some cyber laws have been set up, and then particularly in India, the government has tried to time and again to rope in the different service players or the various servers also, people who are using it. So these people have been tried to rope in and to have a control over there or a little regulation but it's not really possible because many of these internet service providers are all global players, and you either have they would not be cowed down and pressurized by governments, state governments. So it's not they have to be an international understanding that certain material which is very harmful should be restricted. I mean, having said that, there is a huge debate. There is a lot of bad pornographic material also which is not being restricted. And then many international service providers, they don't say that they're not going to eat. So there is a problem there. There is an international understanding has to be there. There's a lot of business. So the gatekeeping, particularly we are talking about journalism, there is national rules and regulations may not apply, but internationally we can appeal to ethical considerations and ask for what do you call ethical moral values to be adopted by international community. Then they can probably come to some kind of understanding over that. But cyber laws are there, but they have been used to a great peril of they can be used. In fact, within the country itself in India, the cyber laws have come up. Sometimes they find that they are very harsh. The people, there is they become very controversial, and they have to be revised, and then the laws had to be changed under the public pressure, because you cannot hurt people, because there is also something called freedom of expression, and there could be innocent freedom of expression. So there has to be balance. If we are still in the initial years,
these are the teething problems
of the cyber laws.
And with time we will get it sorted out.
I'm sure they will get sorted out.
Okay. So any suggestion you would like to have from your experience talking with so many people, students? So do you have something that need to be done to make it more reliable, more objective and the things?
Yes, I would think that it is only the younger people who are now getting into this field, and if we can sensitize them to through academic institutions, or perhaps people organizations like CEC, we can broadcast the dangers and the potential of the dark net, which can create a lot of huge amount of dangers. Sensitize them to the ethical values and importance of the responsibility they should take on this internet journalism through various media units, like particularly educational media channels and educational media institutions. They have to evolve a certain teaching programs, lessons, and sensitization programs for the younger people. And these people, these players, when they come into the market, they should be able to have a self-regulation and adapt a good procedures and good journalism. Because I don't believe that any imposition of rules and regulations will ensure good journalism. It has to come with a self-regulated journalism.
Okay, so we can say the onus is on the younger generation. They use it, but the responsibility is also not to misuse it, and don't allow others to misinterpret or manipulate the information.
I can't agree more with you. I absolutely agree with you on this.
Okay, so well friends, with this word we would like to conclude the lecture. I thank you, all of you, for watching the lecture, and on your behalf I thank Professor S.R. Chari for giving such an insightful lecture and guidance on how to pursue the web journalism. Thank you very much.
Thank you.